Greetings to everybody. Welcome to the literature reading session. Today we will be reading from Complete Works of Chandra, Volume 6. And we'll also try to understand some of this Bhakti Sutras, Narada Bhakti Sutras I have been trying to understand. And each statement has more depth and it gives us profound understanding. And it helps us in realizing the value of the path that we are on. In this last week, we left off with the thought that upon attaining devotion, a person neither desires anything nor harbors any hatred. So, true state of devotion is where the pull of the desire is not there. Only when the pull of desire is there, you are able to hate. Hatred has no power in it because love and hatred are the dualities and they exist in the subtle field. When love is there, hatred is there. But devotion has no opposite because it is in the causal field. So that is why the pull of the desire, the pull of the hatred is not there in the state of devotion. So a devotee never becomes attached or finds enthusiasm in sensual pleasures. Because love creates attachment, desire creates the pull of the pleasures. So that is a concept that if we understand, we try to elevate. We all have love to a certain extent to our brothers and sisters, to the guide that is helping us. But we need to evolve from that level of love towards devotion. Because devotion doesn't have the pull of the desire nor the pull of attachment. And also another concept the sage talks about in this Bhakti Sutra is, he says that we often give Guru Dakshina. Why we call it a Guru Dakshina? Because it is, true meaning of that is, it's a token of gratitude for accepting the gift. When you give something to the master, it is a token of your gratitude that he is accepting it. That is why you give it, because he has accepted you for eternity. Because once the Guru holds your hands, it is for eternity. Say if the Guru refuses this dakshina, as it called, in some level, our love would be incomplete. So by accepting the disciple, the Guru opens the door. So that is why a lover feels grateful after giving something to the Guru. And a devotee, even in this giving and in this gratitude, there is levels. After you give, you feel grateful. But a devotee feels grateful after giving everything, after giving away everything. He doesn't have to give it to the Guru, but when he is rid of the pull of the material manifestation as well as the consciousness manifestation, because we have to even go beyond consciousness, beyond this awareness. A devotee neither desires anything or harbors hatred. This is the statement. Because hatred is the shadow of the desire, and as long as we have desire, we will also hate. That means we haven't, if there is hatred in our heart, we haven't crossed the earth plane. That means we haven't crossed the first point. We haven't mastered the first point. This is the clue. A lot of people think that because I have been in this path for so long, but they still continue to harbor this feeling of hatred for one person, that person. That is why Daji beautifully gave the other day when somebody asked, when I look around, it is difficult for me to love all. He says, because that's what Chariji said, love all whom he loves. And then Daji gave a beautiful reply. He says, love him who loves all. That's what Babuji said. Because it is difficult to love all, he says, love him who loves all. So when we are able to do that, then over a period of time, we are able to transcend this material world and the field of the desire and let go of this hatred. Then you become an observer. You are just observing those people with those weaknesses. You don't hate them. So when life is filled with desires, that means they do not know love. So there is a set of people in the entire material world. It's all about their cars and their dresses and their jewelry and their connections, how many people they know. They are stuck in the material manifestation because it's matter, energy, and causal. But objects remain behind when we leave this earth plane because we only live a certain period of time. When it's ready to leave, the objects remain behind. But what accompanies us is the energy field. Love accompanies us. So we have to strengthen that field of the love. And if that love we are able to transcend, it becomes devotion. And it goes with us completely because it is the field of the causal. So just like, when gold, pure gold goes along and the foreign matter stays back when you melt it. So only in the moments of love that we rise above the objects. So that is why the masters teach us this concept of love, because instead of telling you to let go of the desire, they're diverting your attention away from the material world by giving you a goal. Fix your goal. Love your goal. Be one with your goal. So then you are having moments of love towards the person who is taking you towards that goal. And when we are able to divert the flow of the thought from the material object of desire pulled, you are diverting it towards love. And that love gradually with practice, when we are able to completely let go of this, when we are able to transcend that matter field, now love has the potency of becoming devotion. So we rise above objects and become aware of the personalities. In the energy field, you are aware of the personalities. That is why because we love our children, we don't care so much about whether they gave this to you or at the end of the day, even if they call you stupid, you still love them. Until the death, you really want them, especially if we are in the spiritual path, we want our children to experience this spiritual nectar that we are enjoying. So we try so hard. Why? Because that is in the field of the love, energy field. Because that is where the world of the individual begin and the world of the objects end. So what did the statement mean when it says you are neither attached nor find enthusiasm to sensual pleasures? There's a lot of times, people in the material world, they say, oh, when you are in spirituality, you don't come to parties, you don't enjoy. Because the pull of the desire is not there anymore. And we have tasted you are only enthusiastic about sensual pleasures until you have tasted the supreme pleasure. The one being in the energy field, when he tastes the supreme pleasure of devotion, the taste is so high, now this desire field is not so palatable. It is not pulling you anymore. That's why it feels like waste of energy and you don't even try to go so much. In some sense, they are right, but you are transcending. So the person indulges in the trivial things only until the door to that immense causal field, the immense pleasure, that nectar opens up. It's like we pick pebbles only because we are unaware of the diamonds and the jewels. In the same beach, if there is diamonds and jewels, will you pick the pebbles? You are able to see the diamonds and jewels. And we collect garbage because we have no recognition of the true wealth. So it is the characteristic of the devotee that they don't have enthusiasm in the sensual pleasures. It's normal. The one driven by the desires finds excitement in all the material manifestation of sensual pleasures, where the desire is the cage. You are jailed by the desire. The sage says, knowing that bhakti, that kind of devotion, a person becomes ecstatic, silent and content, self-content. This is the statement. The person becomes ecstatic, silent and self-content. And isn't that what's happening to us when we are meditating? We are becoming silent. We are content. We are content with simple things. We wake up, we walk, we eat, we meditate. We are content. And at times, when that sitting takes us, the transmission makes us touch that core of that causal field, you wake up in joy, ecstatic. So, devotion, bhakti, is an extraordinary ecstasy. In that state of bhakti, our mind is always immersed in a unique consciousness. Life is no longer ordinary. It becomes a joyful dance because now you enter a different dimension. And in this sutra, the sage also gives a different concept. In the Hindu tradition, when you see the guide or the guru or God, you prostrate, you bow down flat on the floor to touch their feet. But he says, what kind of prostration is it if one still feels the sense of lifting the head? So here there is two concepts in this bowing down in front of the divinities. One is this ego that will keeps us pulling up the head. The other thing is worship done with awareness. Here you cross the borders of the subtle body field. We are all talking about this awareness, 360-degree awareness. All this awareness is in that subtle body field. When you actually move into that true state of causal field and have that true devotion, there is no ego and you transcend awareness. You transcend ego, you transcend even awareness. You go beyond consciousness. So worship done with awareness is actually an insult to worship. So when a devotee bows their head, it never rises again. That means for the devotee, the ego never rises up. So at that level, when the head is bowed down, what is the point of preserving your awareness? When you dive in, you just dive in completely. You let go, you go beyond awareness and you are lost in devotion. And an example for this is from the Mahabharata. The example of losing awareness I'm giving you. In the Mahabharata, Lord Krishna visits the town of Duryodhana, and so he goes to his devotee Vidura. Vidura was one of the kings. That was the brother of Pandu and Duryodhana's father. He was Duryodhana's uncle. He was the uncle of villain. And his wife was a devotee of Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna suddenly visits their house. And she was in the shower at that time. She was showering. The moment she hears that Lord Krishna arrived, she just runs to him naked. Because in that extreme devotion, there was no awareness of the body or the soul or nothing. So she was not conscious. She lost her awareness in devotion. She ran naked. So then Lord Krishna covers her with his shawl. So that is the example of losing awareness also. So that is how a mad devotee lives in. They live in another world. It's a total different dimension. You are in the earth, but you're not in the earth. So for the devotee, there is no rules. That's why knowing devotion, a person becomes excited. Because just the thought of the beloved brings joy to you. That is how even Mother Meera was. She was a princess, but she had no awareness. She was dancing on the streets in love for the Lord. Again, another example of losing awareness. So when the divine enters into the life of a devotee, the devotee lives in another dimension. And also another great example from the Muslim tradition, a great master said, he says, Allah, Allah, the sight of this lightning beauty, the sight of this lightning beauty of you, my eyes see it, but my lips remain silent. Because when you see that, there's nothing to speak about it. That's losing awareness. So in a yogi, he practices silence. He practices stillness. So we are all yogis trying to practice silence and stillness. But when you move to the field of the devotion, silence and stillness descend upon you effortlessly as grace. That's why when grace comes down, nothing matters. You are unstoppable in your spiritual journey. It's a deep meaning for the sutra. So let us now read Babuji Maharaj's complete works of Ramchandra, volume 6. Step into the field. The nature of my service is that it may awaken or produce a yearning for God realization in the hearts of seekers. He's saying the nature of my service. When I transmit to you, what happens? It awakens the soul. That's why this wakefulness, even the statement the other day, Daji was quoting about Swami Vivekananda's arise, awake, because we are all sleeping. We are in a sleep state. We need to be awakened from that sleep state. We are in that sleep state, so we are so caught up in the matter. We need to be awakened. What awakens us? When the field of the causal touches the matter. So that is what the transmission does, is it touches our causal field and it starts to create a stir in the consciousness field, thereby awakening us to the idea that divinity exists, or else we even forgot that divinity exists. We forgot that there is a base for us. We forgot that we have a parent. We forgot that we have the beginning. And so we are so lost in this whirlpool of the matter. So the nature of my service is that it may awaken or produce a yearning for divine realization in the hearts of seekers. But you have to wait for that, and I am also doing same. Peace is transmitted from heart to heart, or in other words, love begets love. If you have not yet started meditation, then start it now. May the divine bless you. I do not want to speak much about myself, as that is what sent Mansur to the gallows in ancient times. I don't know the story of Mansur. Although those days are no more, it may still happen that people try to measure me without having developed sight. I do hope that after reading the above mentioned statement, you will realize the truth by weighing me in the balance of your heart. Whenever a will is formed, the action starts automatically thereof. It's a profound statement. In some sense, I gather it as when the will is formed, the action starts. When he transmits, when we are awakened, our will is somehow activated. That's the first sitting. That's what happens, is we are enabled to do our cleansing. Otherwise, the whole spinal cord is clogged. So when will is formed, the action here is the divine action, the divine journey. The physical action we are able to do, but the divine action, that going towards the causal field to the divinity, is what is being activated. And in some sense, we cannot really know about the master until we have grown a little bit. You cannot recognize the field of the masters. You'd really, because when we are in the matter, we only see him with the matter field. You are looking at only the words. You're not looking at the vibration behind the words. You're not looking at the causal action that he's going to create in you to change your future with those little words. The word that comes out of the master is creating a future inside you. Only when you arrive at that future, then you recognize what he did for you. Like when I met Babuji, what he did for me. At that moment, I didn't know. But today, when I look back and I said, oh my God, he said that, and today this is what I am. Do pray and try to get drowned into it the same extent as a beggar who is holding his begging bowl without any awareness of begging. So this is again, he's talking about devotion. No awareness that you are even asking, because the moment you have the idea you want something, then it is pulled by desire. In that field, there's no desire. So you have to, why this begging idea? Because you have, the ego has to be transcended. Only in that state, the ego has transcended. Because a person who is actually example is because you feel like you are nothing. You are but nothing, one little cell in this vast millions that he may not even recognize you. There's a funny Christian story that a priest in a church, he dies and he serves a lot, and he goes to heaven, and he's waiting for God to come him and invite him with a garland. Oh, you've served so many people, like us, all of us who think that we serve a lot. And then he has to wait. Years go by, and finally somebody comes and he's looking so bright. And he says, oh God, you have come. I am this Pope from this particular town. And he says, no, I'm not God. I'm just a servant here. I'm a gate watchman. Which world are you talking about? Which city are you talking about? Because there's so many worlds. He says, wait 1 second. I'm going to go call God and come back. And he goes, and another million years. But like that, he waits at eternity until he realizes there is so many earths, so many millions and millions and billions of cells, and you are nothing. And when he arrives at that state of nothing, that I am nothing, that state of beggarhood, that's not begging, but there is no desire anymore except to see the beloved. Because he was so desperate. Now he didn't care what he did, what he served, who he was. There was just this longing in the heart for the ultimate. That is the state of begging. So do pray and try to get drowned into it the same extent as a beggar who is holding his begging bowl without any awareness of begging. If you create such a condition, then your prayer should be accepted and will also be fulfilled. This is what Daji says at bedtime, if you have to shed artificial tears, do it. Practice sobbing and weeping in love, which even if it is not real, may be taken up artificially. Do this and see the results. It gives me great delight that a lover has begun to think of this insignificant being. Is it a small thing? What more happiness is there for me than the fact that the thought of serving the mission has taken its place in people's hearts? This thought will work to bring spiritual progress. It can never happen that by thinking of the coolness of a river, your mind and heart do not feel that coolness. So, when you think of the master, his condition we should be able to feel his condition. That is behind the principle of the remembrance. Even a thought is sufficient to gain the experience by the grace of the divinity. What you aspire to attain through the practice is so easy that I think there can be nothing easier than this. Therefore, first, step into the field so that my teachings may be verified. If for nothing else, do this meditation for the sake of an experiment. If even this is impossible, then simply imagine while out or while taking rest that I myself am drowned in your thought. This is neither a method of worship nor is there any ritualistic bondage in it. Question. Please tell me a method to stop impressions formed by the actions of the body from entering the heart, and also to withdraw the senses from the sense objects and then turn them inward. Babuji says, all these things come by meditation, as I have told you. Really, my work is to create such a condition through transmission. Moreover, there are some points which, if touched by thought, can create such a condition. But the seeker should at least cooperate with me a little so that I may try those methods. It is also possible for this poor self to silence the mind and all the senses of a seeker in an instant. But this method is quite dangerous and can be employed only on elevated seekers, and only in very exceptional cases a person's originality can be regained immediately with this method. That is, when the master makes your mind silence because you have gathered enough journey, you have traveled enough with the thought, he can silence the mind. So it is also possible for this poor self to silence the mind and all the senses of a seeker in an instant. But this method is quite dangerous and can be employed only on elevated seekers and only in very exceptional cases. A person's originality can be regained immediately after this method. So that is why they gave a subtler suggestion for us, which is what we practice in this satsang, is all my senses are in a state of balance. They have arrived at their original character. This is what he's saying. A person's originality can be regained immediately with this method. So that, but this technique is for all. All my senses are in a state of balance. They have arrived at their original character. All my feelings are in silence. And Babaji ends this with, one heart is better than 1,000 pilgrimage centers, 1,000 Kaabas. So move into the heart. It's what the message. Beautiful article. Let us all now meditate.